Bigger than Capes.
Give me some outside.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it, and then I watched it.
Dry.
Hello, welcome to Bigger Than Capes. I'm Zach, and this week I'm joined by Angela. How you doing, Angela?
I'm doing all right. Yeah. And you?
Splendid. Yeah, I'm pretty good. Not much is happening, I think, is probably the... Well, I mean, we're coming at you from the past now, because when this actually goes out, I will be, away on holiday. Yeah. So...
Things are happening.
Things are probably really good, and I'm probably really busy. But right now, prior to that,
this is the calm before the storm.
Surprisingly calm, yeah, free.
Yeah.
But that does tie into what we're talking about today. So today we're getting into holiday comic recommendations. So comics to read on holiday, or graphic novels, more fittingly.
Things.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting one because I think it is quite subjective, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how we do. Did you want to do like what have you been doing kind of thing, or should we just?
I mean, I've not been doing a lot, which is always the case. I'm always showing up when we do these. When there's four of us, and Matt and Will have been doing many things, and I'm like, I went outside that one time.
Yeah, I feel like I've done little recently. Been outside a couple of times. Ate some food. Came back again. I've read some books, I guess. Watched some things. Yeah. I wonder what.
What have I watched? I know I've started a rewatch of the Clone Wars. Because I always do. I do everything backwards with Star Wars. So I had rewatched Star Wars Rebels, and then I thought I'll go back and watch the Clone Wars because that makes sense.
When I first got Disney Plus, I attempted to do a Clone Wars rewatch, and this is going to sound bad because I know it's really good, but got about 3 episodes in and just realised I didn't care. At all. It was just this dawning realization where it's like, I know this is really good. I know this is the opportunity to actually finally talk to people about it. But looking at there being 7 seasons?
Yeah, 7 seasons and a movie, because the movie came first.
Yes. I think it just hit me all at once, I don't care enough to commit to this right now. It's just too much. So that kind of got permanently put on hold, and now it's a year later, I guess.
Yeah.
It is really good stuff. Though I think I might like Rebels more.
I vastly preferred Rebels because it's a smaller cast. It's character. I mean, Clone Wars goes absolutely all over the place. There's not... I mean, which you get because it's a vast galactic war. It probably would.
Yeah, of course.
But I do prefer the much smaller scale of Rebels where you've only got 6 main characters and you've got recurring characters and it just feels a bit more contained. The first half of the first season is rough with Rebels. I enjoy it, but it is a bit more kiddified.
Yeah.
But by the end of sort of season 1, I fell in love with it and I was very into it. And then I went back and watched Clone Wars and I was like, man, these characters, I know how it ends up. So it does take some of the tension out.
Yeah, and there's definitely that as well. I think the fact that basically everyone in Rebels is kind of a new character for Rebels.
Yeah.
Or the vast majority at least.
Yeah, they are.
There's a lot more freedom, whereas with Clone Wars, you kind of know what's going to happen to Anakin.
Yeah.
At least most of the time.
He's going to murder children. You know that's coming.
Yeah, that's not a real highlight of the whole Anakin Skywalker story, I guess.
No.
Well, this has been a fun little chat. I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
I can't think what I've been watching. Oh, I don't know if I said it on last week's podcast or a previous podcast. I am like a couple of seasons into watching all of Orphan Black, which I started in
Yes.
2013 and
Yeah.
then didn't go back to until this year. It's really good. I should have given it more time in 2013.
I feel like I need to go back and give it a second look because I was like you. Like it came out in 2013. I watched some. I thought, yeah, that's fine. It's a good show, and then I just didn't watch anymore.
I don't know why I drifted away from it so easily. Everyone I know seems to have like watched an episode in 2013 and then bailed.
Yeah, we all did. It was a thing we did. That was children. That's what we did in 2013.
Is it because it was BBC? Is it just that's what happens? You watch an episode and you go, this is fine, bye.
Yeah. Was it on BBC Three over here?
I don't know. It's BBC America, isn't it? That made it. So
I feel like it
can't remember how that was distributed in the UK.
It was probably on the Youth Channel, which was BBC Three, which still exists, but only online via iPlayer, which I don't understand how that.
No, don't know what that's about.
No.
All I ever think about is the fact that for some reason, if it's made by BBC America, it's probably got a much higher budget than if it was made by the BBC. Yet, if you're in England, people will look down on it.
Yeah, it's
I don't know why.
It's like when they did the TV movie of Doctor Who with Paul McGann's Doctor.
Yeah,
and that was like big budget American, and everybody hated it apart from me. At the time, I enjoyed it, but I was only 14, so.
I haven't seen it since I haven't seen it since probably the 90s, but as a kid I liked it.
Yeah, I it's fine. But yeah, everyone's like, this is far too American, and to be fair, there was a lot of it's far too American. But I'm like, look at the budget. Look at the budget, people. Never has Doctor Who looked like it had money. And then
that's fair.
It doesn't now, but it seems to have a budget now. But is that because it gets shown on BBC America in the States?
Possibly.
So it has to show it has a budget.
There was a season of Torchwood, I think, that was made with BBC America, and it was suddenly like based in America and was more over the top.
Yeah.
If memory serves.
Yeah.
So maybe. But yeah, Orphan Black is worth the time. It's just a shame it's taken me like 8 years to go back to it. It's good stuff. Good stuff. And I've been doing other things, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got too much time now that I've finished the Great Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles project.
Yeah.
Now
you need another project to suck your life away.
I need another 5-month project that is against the clock.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what that would be, but I feel like I've got a lot more free time to read things, which ultimately I'm spending questioning what I should read.
Know that feeling.
So, should we dive into these holiday comic reads things?
Yes.
Do you want to kick off with the honourable mentions, or do you want to throw those in throughout, or how do you want to do this?
I'll probably... Well, I can certainly kick off with one, because we've just discussed Star Wars, so it seems appropriate.
Good shout. Yeah.
That I mention one of our honourable mentions, which is Star Wars Adventures, which is IDW, so it's still within our indie purview. It's a licensed comic. If you would like to know more about licensed comics, Zach and Will did a podcast on it, so go and check that out. But no, the reason it's an honourable mention is it's aimed at children, but a lot of us get stuff out of it. I enjoy it because it's standalone little stories, and it doesn't require a huge amount of investment, and it's with characters you know and hopefully like, and you can just read it. I have the omnibus, and it's just nice to, all right, I'll just read a Star Wars adventure comic, and I can just read one of those stories, put it down and then come back to it later, and it doesn't require too much thought and investment, and it's nice. It's just nice. It's just
I completely agree. I don't know, that's something about it. It's nice. It's just nice.
It's nice.
It's just ridiculous, but
yeah.
But yeah, Star Wars Adventures is a good read, and it is nice and light as well, I think.
Yeah. And also, as someone who, because Rebels only got 4 seasons, unlike Clone Wars, and they have done a couple of issues with sort of the Rebels characters in, and it's just nice because it's like more canon content for me. I'll take it. Thank you.
That's fair. Yeah. Did Disney do any comics with the Rebels guys?
They did. They did a magazine. They did a magazine which was published by Titan, of which I only have 1 issue because getting hold of back issues, they cost literally hundreds of pounds.
Yeah.
And they had little comics in them.
Did we get a Kanan? Is he Kanan?
Kanan had, Marvel did a Kanan comic, Kanan the Last Padawan. Which
yes.
They've also done, which is quite nice, there's a manga adaptation. There's only 1 volume of that that's been out so far, but that was really good. That's nice and light, and it actually expands on a few. It's not a literal word for word adaptation, which is nice. It's very manga, but I like it. And Hera's appeared in a few different books. Alphabet Squadron, I think she was in. And she and Kanan were in a book as well together, telling their early years. But bizarrely, that's quite a mature book, and it's not aimed at the children. So,
all right. That's an interesting twist.
I basically spent a long time tracking down any sort of content.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting like a full rundown of the Rebels bibliography, but I should have probably known it was coming.
Yeah.
I will throw in one of my honourable mentions before we get to our recommendations proper, which is again something that we've covered this year on the podcast, which was No One Left to Fight. Oh
yes.
It's essentially like a homage to Dragon Ball Z. It's a pretty light read and really easy to just slam through. But yeah, because we did quite a deep dive episode on it with me and Matt back in March?
It was either February or March. It was earlier this year, yeah.
It doesn't really matter now that it's past that point and podcasts are available whenever you want them. But
yeah, check them out, guys.
If you were eager to know the month, we don't know it either.
No.
But yeah, No One Left to Fight is a good read.
It is good. It is, like you said, it's just fun as well. It's just got an element of fun to it.
Yes, very much so. So, yes, it also might be my punchiest of books compared to everything else I've got on this list.
There's a lot of
far less fight scenes in. Okay, no, all right. So less fight scenes sometimes in the rest of the stuff I've got. Yeah. So, would you like to kick us off with your first holiday read recommendation?
The first one. So, generally, these will be lighter. There is one on here that isn't terribly light, but we'll get to that. But the first one's fairly light, and to the surprise of nobody, it's a Valiant book.
And really?
Yeah, it is, and it's The Delinquents.
Okay,
Which is the crossover, the infamous crossover between Archer and Armstrong and Quantum and Woody and the Goat. And it's just a short 4-issue kind of a story where they meet up and shenanigans happen. That's all the plot you need with these 4. And it's just nice because I love both Archer and Armstrong, Quantum and Woody, and they're quite light. But there's also quite a lot of content, particularly Archer and Armstrong. There's a lot. And while I would like to reread all of it, if I'm going away, I don't want to have to read 25 volumes of Archer and Armstrong. And, you know, It's a bit much, but I still like a little bit of a comedy Valiant hit, and The Delinquents is a comedy Valiant hit, and it's just great. They've never interacted since, which is an absolute travesty.
It really is. It's this was going to be one of my picks, as was both Archer and Armstrong and Quantum and Woody, until I thought about the fact that it's like 10 volumes and then like 6 volumes. It's a lot to take. Digitally, by all means, do it. But
if you've got it on your iPad, go for it.
Yeah, run with it. We should have probably said, we should have laid out the rules that we were trying to follow.
There are some.
We were trying to follow things that are quite short runs or single volumes, and things that are just lighter to read than I don't know, Watchmen.
That's the benchmark, lighter than Watchmen.
Yeah, I feel like that's not a very incredibly low benchmark. Like lighter than Watchmen. It's like, oh right, comics then.
Comics, yeah. Nothing that's got too much death and gore, and nothing that's gonna tax your brain cells too much.
And nothing that includes back matter that's from a character's autobiography.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Watchmen go now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know it's very good world building, but the extracts from the original Night Owl's biography and the press releases from Adrian's company are just things that are in Watchmen that annoyed me when I was reading them when I was a teenager. And I can't let that go. I just can't. No. Can't separate it. Delinquents is very good. It might be a pretty decent jumping on point for both sets of characters, I think. And am I right in thinking that they're trying to find Rock Candy Mountain?
Yeah.
Is that the main plot? So it's pretty wild. It's
crazy ridiculous.
But no, it's a fun installment. It's James Asmus, if I'm right.
I'll double check the creative team.
James Asmus and Fred Van Lente, so the guys who were writing both Archer and Armstrong and Quantum Woody at the time, I think.
But it works really well. Their styles work very well together, I find.
Yeah.
It does. I have to find it now. Except I can't spell Delinquents, which is where my problem lies. Oh, there it is. The Delinquents from 2014. It was James Asmus and Fred Van Lente, and Cano did the art.
Oh, yeah.
Which I had forgotten about.
It's pretty good art, from what I recall, yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely a good choice. I think it's nice, light, Valiant. It might be it's the two funniest Valiant series in the same place.
Yeah. Yeah. I
mean, that's a great strength.
Yeah, just the way that they interact together, it just works. And there's some absolutely crazy stuff that goes on, and you couldn't get away with it in, say, Ninjak, but you completely get away with it with these four. And also the goat appears and does,
goat
things, which is always a bonus.
I feel like it's a shame that we didn't get like Delinquents 2 when Dan Kibble-Smith and Elliot Ray Hall were working on Quantum and Woody, or I don't know, anything since. I think it would be good to get. Yeah,
I think it'd be nice. I mean, I'd forgotten they get Archer drunk on absinthe at one point, which is
just good stuff.
It's all good stuff. So, yeah, but if you're unfamiliar with the comedy side of Valiant, which sadly a lot of people are, the Delinquents, and I don't think you need too much prior. If you have prior knowledge, you will get a lot out of it. But if you don't have prior knowledge, I don't think it matters.
I think that's fair. I think you can jump in at the Delinquents. I think you can pretty much jump in wherever you want with Valiant.
Yeah.
Within reason. But, yeah, I think you could start with Delinquents.
Yeah, I had just forgotten, just flicking through, I had forgotten how clever the paneling is as well. There's some really nice panel work with that. It's not the usual very basic. Valiant, to be fair, they have a certain house style with a lot of their books. But this is just all over the place, and I love it for that.
Yeah, it's pretty out there. And from what I remember, Kano's artwork does tend to get quite weird at times with the paneling and the structures.
Yeah, there's like little panels of little faces next to huge panels of faces, and stuff that actually is the same picture but it's across several panels, and it's yeah.
Am I right in thinking he also did the art for the Quantum and Woody 2017?
I believe he was
or at
involved.
Least the start of
he
it.
Did
I think.
some of it. Yeah, I think there was more than one on that, but he was the one. But yes, no, I recommend that because it's, like I said, it's an absolute crying shame that, to be fair, both Quantum and Woody and Archie now sort of seemingly been abandoned by Valiant. Bring them back, give them a crossover.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. So, from one ridiculous comedy to another.
Yeah, go on.
My first recommendation is Pantheon by Hamish Steele.
Oh, yes.
Which is it's published by Nobrow, which are based in London, I think, so real English like. And it's kind of a pretty accurate retelling of some Egyptian mythology.
It is.
But embracing the ridiculousness of said mythology. Focuses in mostly on Set, Horus, Isis, and Osiris.
Yes, that, yeah. Because that's the whole, he ends up with the getting killed and the whole... Let's just... Yeah, and missing certain body parts, yeah.
As you do. It's, I don't want to give too much away because I think it's so good and so funny and so ridiculous. It's pretty cartoony and adorable in art, and I think Hamish Steele's style really does suit it. If you're into Egyptian mythology, I think you'll have a good time. If you're not, I think you'll have a good time.
I mean, I had some vague understanding of who these gods were, but I really enjoyed. I felt like I learnt things, but also had a good time doing it. Yeah,
I think that's fair, and I think it's the kind of learning that makes you question how much of this can really be like the actual myths, and then a quick Google search reveals, actually, pretty much exactly.
Yeah, the ancient Egyptians had some wild, wild ideas about their gods and what went on.
And I'm all for it. It's a really good read, and I think it is entirely light-hearted and fun enough to, read on holiday without having a terrible time. And
there are points you wouldn't have to read. You wouldn't want to read some of it out in public where people could see.
That's fair. There are some, I don't know, more explicit moments. But it's a really good book. It's my kind of ridiculous, and I would also tag on that Dendia, which is Hamish Steele's other book, is also a pretty good call of kind of ridiculous comedy with some horror elements. It's Dead Endia focuses on a group of people working at the haunted house in a fairground, is it like a Dollywood parody, I think, that they work in?
Yeah.
And they work in this haunted house attraction that is actually haunted and has a gateway in it to hell, basically.
Yeah.
But both Dead Endia and Pantheon are really solid comedy, light-hearted, ridiculous. Yes.
Hamish Steele is very good at telling the tales that he does in those. But also with Pantheon, it's like he knows what he's writing about as well. Like he's researched it and he's distilled it into a format that we can all enjoy.
Yes, and I think pretty much everyone's going to enjoy Pantheon. I don't think I've
Yeah.
met anyone who hasn't liked it yet.
No, it's very popular, and so it should be.
Yes, indeed. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it back to Angela for...
Right, so I'm going to go with a book that's not as popular as it damn well should be.
Oh, no.
Which is, because there was going to be a David Post book on this list. There was just going to be. And Spencer and Locke,
Statistically, yeah.
it was very likely. But Spencer and Locke is just a wee bit dark, and you don't really want to be reading about, the breaking of one man's mind while you're on holiday. Unless you're a Bond villain, I don't know. So my pick for that one then is Going to the Chapel, which is
Okay.
which is very different to his other ones, because it's quite light, and the way that he describes it is like he wrote it for people who wouldn't normally read comics. It's a comic book for people that may not read comics, and I think it really works. It's basically a rom-com, but with guns and hostages. To give it
well sold. Good job.
yeah, that's what it is. It's a rom-com with guns and hostages, and yeah, basically this woman's ex is... I'm going to give a bit of the plot away. I'm not going to give away what happens in the end, but this woman's ex is basically a bank robber. He has a gang, they rob things, and he comes, and she's having a rich society wedding, so he's deciding to rob the wedding and maybe get back together with her, and shenanigans ensue. I like shenanigans as a word, but it's actually really nice. There's an excellent grandmother character in, which everyone needs a cool grandma at a wedding. And it's just really good. There's a lot, maybe it's because, let's go for the old cliche of women do like a nice story about a wedding. But this wedding has guns in it. And it has, there is a lot of emotional stuff as well. Like there is a proper love triangle stuff going on. And it's the kind of book that if I was into chick lit, I would probably read this comic and have a fairly decent time. I don't read chick lit, so I don't know whether people who read chick lit would gravitate towards this comic. This is my version of chick lit, and I'm fine with that. But it's got a very...
You've said chick lit more in the last minute than I think anyone has ever said chick lit.
But I will also give a shout out, because although so the writing's really good. It all cycles back. There's some flashbacks. It's really well plotted, but I would expect nothing less. Because I do like David Post's writing, as anyone will be aware by now. The art is by Gavin Guidry. But what I like is because this is a book with a central female character in, we have a female colorist, Elizabeth Kramer, and we have a female letterist, which is so rare, which is Ariana Mayer. So yeah, it's by Action Lab Danger Zone. And yeah, I just really enjoy it. It's only 4 issues long. So it's quite short. It's only 100 and a bit pages. But you will have a nice time with it. There is love, there is laughter, there's a wisecracking grandmother, and there's a SWAT team outside the chapel. So there you go.
Good times all around.
Yeah.
I had this suspicion there was going to be some David Post. I was really curious how you were going to sell Spencer and Locke as a holiday read, but I'm glad you went in a different direction with this one. It is really good. I agree. I think, yeah, good call. Good call. Not a lot I can really add to this one, other than good job.
Yeah. So,
and speaking of
good
guns,
job. Speaking of guns, go on.
my next pick is Kyle Starks and Erica Henderson and his Assassination.
Oh, yay!
I haven't actually written down how I'm going to try and sell this one. So, Assassination basically tells the story of the former world's greatest assassin hiring. Is it the 20 world's greatest
Top 20,
assassins?
yeah.
I think. Right. So the former world's greatest assassin is now like a mob boss, and he hires the top 20 assassins in the world to be his bodyguards because he's going to be because someone is attempting to assassinate him. So he decides the best defense is a good offense. I don't know. The best defense is more guns. So it's just insane. It's just one volume. I think it's 6 issues. 5 issues, 6 issues. So it's pretty short, and it is all things Kyle Starks kind of condensed into one insane location. Character names are perfection from start to finish. We mainly end up focusing on Max Bishop, who is also a former world's greatest assassin. And then the others we get a lot of time with are Smoke, Dave, Fuck Tarkington, and Chad Fingerman. And it's just so good. There's like Dave and Fuck have got a like entire like buddy comedy going on like in between all the shooting. There's so many like action movie cliches, and it's like reading the funniest action film, I think is the best way to sum this one up. And Eric Henderson's art throughout is okay. There's a lot of blood, but it's fun. It's fun blood. It's not gory. It's comedy blood. That's right. Yeah, this is like Tarantino movie levels of blood. It's gone beyond the gore and is now just hysterical. It's a really good read, and I feel like any Kyle Starks book could have made this list. I debated with myself about Sex Castle or Rock Candy Mountain, but ultimately settled that Assassination was my favorite, so it's the right one.
It is the right one. It is. I like to think of it as peak Kyle Starks. That's how I like to think of it.
I think that's fair.
It like I said, it is absolutely hilarious, and just the character names alone are just a stroke of genius. Yes. And Erica Henderson's art really works well with the whole thing because the tone is just so funny. But yeah, no, I like that choice. That's a good choice.
Thank you. Occasionally I have them. But yeah, Assassination. It's good. It's over the top. It might be. It's the most violent pick on. I think I've got. It might be the most violent pick any of us have got.
I know. I might be able to best you with the next one, but maybe not. We'll see how you define violence in a minute. I
think. If you're okay with a lot of shooting and a high body count, but comedy,
but funny.
Assassination, yeah,
just don't get attached to most of the characters.
Yes, there is that. So go for it. What have you got?
Right. So continuing the violence theme, but this is more of a mythology. This is a weird one. I know people are going to go, "Why did you pick this?" So, going with violence and mythology, let's go with Cryptocracy, which is by Dark Horse, which is written by Van Jensen, who has written other stuff, but I feel this didn't get a fair shake. So it is one volume, but it kind of ends on a cliffhanger, and I will be forever bitter, Dark Horse. I've never forgiven them for not doing or not allowing a follow-up to this. Basically, imagine, if you will, the Illuminati. But so you've got the 9 families who, coexist quite happily, And then, as it turns out, ancient gods come along and want to destroy them and the planet. And it's up to one man whose name is Graham. So good luck, everybody, to solve them. It doesn't have a particularly light tone, I will grant you. It does have a talking bear called Jason in it, though. And Jason is my favourite character and needed a spin-off quite desperately, and turns out to have a really tragic backstory, which will make you cry if you are any kind of a person. But yeah, so it is one volume, but it is this story of the 9 families. There is world building, there is mythology, but it's not too dense. It's not dense enough that you will go, oh, that's really difficult, and I don't understand this. It's, even though it's dealing with gods and monsters do appear in the end, and many people do die. So it is naturally, it is quite dark. But at the same time, it's not something that's so dense that you won't be able to get into it and be able to just, I read it in singles, but yeah, if you read it in trade, it is quite a quick read because you just get very involved in it, but then you're done and you can move on until you realise that there should have been a goddamn follow-up.
I haven't read Cryptocracy, and I've looked at it a great many times. I feel like I should. It seems like a Zach kind of book.
It is. It's very... If you want to see crazy old people trying to bring back Kronos from the dead, this is the book for you.
Fair play. I'll give you that. And I have no doubt at some point I will read it.
Yeah, it's not per se... It's a weird one because most of the rest are light and fluffy and comedy, my picks, but I thought I'd throw this one out there because it is one of my favourite books, and I did actually take it on holiday once, so I feel like I owe it to it. Wow, it was a holiday read for me. Yeah,
that is completely fair. I think I will check it out. I might buy it for this trip. If you're hearing this in the future, and you are, maybe I bought this. Maybe I've read this now. Who knows?
You in the future may be privy to that information.
Who knows? No, yeah, it seems like a good call. It's just made me immediately think that No One Left to Fight that I mentioned earlier also ends where it's like, hey, there'll be a second one, right? Right. Yeah. Which seems to be kind of a dark horse thing at the moment. To like.
Yeah. This is why I don't get involved with Dark Horse books, because they will forever disappoint me by not following them up correctly.
I hate to agree with you, but yeah, they do have a tendency to bail on things that I'm quite into.
Yeah.
Which either suggests that we're wrong and nobody else likes these things, or that Dark Horse are wrong. And
it's clearly Dark Horse who are wrong on this particular.
We're not wrong.
Yeah, we're not wrong.
We know what's up. So
yeah, unless it's Hellboy, there is always the possibility they would cancel something you love.
True. I still am consistently surprised how much Black Hammer we have been allowed to have, because
yeah, we both like it, so inevitably we thought it was doomed.
Yeah, naturally. Not as bad as like if we like a Marvel book, it's already been cancelled, but
yeah, pretty much by the time the first issue comes in. Yeah.
But yeah, surprising. So from resurrecting gods to having your own god. My next pick is Godshaper from Boom.
Oh, good choice.
Well, thank you. So this is by Simon Spurrier. I'm not sure what he's officially going by at the moment.
Is.
And drawn by Jonas Goonface. Really? Is that really the last name for a human?
Goonface.
Could be.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, Godshaper is set in a world where everybody has their own personal god, essentially. It can take many forms. Some of them are small and adorable. Some of them are larger and terrifying.
Yep.
And follows the story of a character called N.A. and his god, Bud. But Swerve, he doesn't... N.A. doesn't actually have his own god. N.A. is a kind of social pariah who travels from town to town, doing odd jobs as a god shaper, which basically means he can like manipulate your god, change what your god looks like, or give your god different abilities. And his god, Bud, that hangs out with him, is basically a god that doesn't have a person. So he's kind of in a similar position to NA. And they kind of drift around playing music and helping people while everybody kind of shuns them. So it's kind of sad, but there's a kind of constant comedy throughout as well, I think. And while it touches on some quite deep themes, I think the comedy is never too far away to make it feel like a heavy read. So yeah, that's my pitch for Godshaper.
That's a good choice. I hadn't considered Godshaper, and yet it makes perfect logical sense. Why,
thank you.
It's got comedy, it's got friendship, it's got tension, but also comedy and friendship.
And also a little god called Bud that wears hats.
Bud is adorable.
The bit that sticks with me is that there is one scene where NA's bike gets stolen, and he's like turns to Bud and he's like, "I stole the bike," and Bud's like, "Yeah," and then he's like, "Oh no, it had all your hats on it," and Bud's like, "No, the hat." It's the immediate like panic of all your hats are gone, and I don't know.
Yeah,
it's good stuff. It's fun, and I think Godshaper's a good, light-hearted but quite deep read. That's a hard combination to do.
It's probably it's both light and deep. That's a good way of describing it. It's not something that you're gonna have an existential crisis about, but it'll make you think just a little bit. If you need something to make you think a bit more while you're relaxing, it's a good shout, and it's just the one volume and done as well, which good things. So go read, do as you're told. Go read all these books, take them all away with you. Pack a different suitcase. I don't care.
To be fair, I think everything except Pantheon is available on Comixology, so people could do this in a digital format quite comfortably.
Just put it on a tablet.
Maybe not financially comfortable.
I know, no. There's always a sale on. They'll be part of a sale, maybe not. I don't know. They don't seem to fit into most of the sale patterns, to be fair. No,
I'm not sure what category this would be, unless they hear that we're doing this podcast and think, that's a great idea, we should do that sale.
We'll have a holiday reads collection based on Bigger Than Capes' recommendations.
Incidentally, if Comixology do want to sponsor us, we're right here. And
we're open to it. We like some of your original published stuff as well.
Hell, we'll even do an episode on them.
Yeah. I may force...
Incidentally, let's table that and come back to it. I think we could do that episode.
Yeah, there's certainly a book that I've reviewed recently that we could easily do an episode on.
Yes.
Yeah, moving.
Yes.
Yeah, but if you are listening, Comixology, bear us in mind. Oh dear, you've got to have faith. And speaking of faith,
nicely done.
That would be my other. I realise I've got 2 Valiant books. But what can I do? So my other pick is Faith. The Hollywood and Vine, Volume 1, Hollywood and Vine, which was the relaunch of Faith. by Jodie Hauser, and Francis Portella did the art. And I'm going to shout out because the letterer is Dave Sharp, who is one of my favourite letterers. If you're unfamiliar with Faith, you've been missing out quite a lot. So Faith was part of Harbinger. We won't get into too much of that, but she's been given her own little spin-off when she moves to Hollywood. And, you know, she's day job and also superheroing. So it's that classic setup. You've got the day job where you wear glasses and a wig so no one recognises you. And then you go out and you also save people as a superhero, which is good. Faith is a really, really likeable protagonist. She's got such a lovely optimism about her. She believes the best in people. And she's also very relatable because she's a little bit of a geek as well, let's be honest. But yeah, this is sort of the introduction to her run. There are several volumes of it. You can read Hollywood and Vine without too much trouble. You don't need to know. She will explain things. You don't need to know her entire background. But it's a good starting point to get into Faith. And yeah, it does have sort of like an ending. It doesn't end on a cliffhanger per se. There are open plot threads, but yeah, you can just enjoy seeing Faith flying about the Hollywood sky and doing her thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call. I think the intention when the series started was just going to be 4 issues and then done. So I think it is very standalone. There are 3 trades that come afterwards that do tie in, but I think you can easily leave it at the 1. Especially if you've got a limit to how many books you can carry.
True.
And I read this before I'd read any of Harbinger, so I think it is a pretty easy jumping on point for the character. I think it probably helps that Jodie Hauser took over for Faith, so she wasn't writing Harbinger. So I think that assists well in that sense. But yeah, Francis Portella's art is a little bit weird at times, but I do like his art style. Have we got some Marguerite Sauvage pages in this with like the weird dream sequence?
Yes, she does the fantasy dream sequence bits,
and they're really cool. Her art's really nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Faith is a really good call. It's one of those series that I'm consistently disappointed that Valiant aren't doing anything with. Because I think so many people would have just read all of this forever.
Yeah, I know. I would have.
But that's not today's complaint. So,
No.
But yes, I think Faith is a really good call, and I think a lot of people would like this. I think it's a really accessible superhero book as well, so it doesn't particularly feel weighed down by the Valiant universe.
No. It feels a bit like Going to the Chapel feels like a comic book for people who don't read comic books in terms of its thing. This feels like a superhero book for people that may not have read a superhero book before. It's very newbie friendly.
In fact, I think a lot of our picks have been. Okay, maybe Cryptocracy sounds a little heavy. But
I wouldn't. I think you have to have read some comics before reading that and be aware of certain tropes. But yeah, the rest, I think you can go into it without having any prior experience.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's fair. Look at us managing to pick things that are quite standalone.
I know.
Fred of us.
I'm glad you watched this.
But yeah, Faith is a really good shout, I think. Yeah. Faith.
Yeah.
So my next one is standalone, but it's a weird kind of standalone.
Go on.
So I want to say I'm going back to about 2015, 2016 with this, when once upon a time Archie Comics decided to relaunch everything that they did to appeal to a younger, cooler generation with more modern artwork. And Archie got taken over by Mark Waid and Fiona Staples. But who cares? Because Jughead got taken over by Chip Zdarsky and Erica Henderson, and then Ryan North and Derek Charm.
Yeah.
It is better. So
I would
Jughead's
agree
the way
with
I'm going to
that.
go.
Good call. I was
Um,
going to be disappointed if you'd gone the other way.
I know what we're all about, let's be honest. So Jughead is happening simultaneously alongside the storyline in the main Archie comic, but it's like Jughead has no idea. It's
Yeah.
it's completely happening. Like, he has the first trade is where I'm going to focus. Kind of follows Jughead. He is at odds with the new principal of the school as they are changing the menu in the cafeteria so he can't get burgers.
Yeah.
And that is somehow the plot of like a full trade. And Archie's book never acknowledges that this is happening. It's
No.
incredibly unclear what's real and what's like a Jughead fever dream. Each single takes on a different like weird fantasy aesthetic. We have like a Game of Thrones issue, and have I gone mad, or do we have a Time Cop issue?
I'm pretty sure we do.
I
think we do.
I can't remember what the others are, but yeah, each one takes on a really weird aesthetic and gets cartoonish and ridiculous. It's very Chip Zdarsky in that sense, and has amazingly dumb things. Like there's one scene where I think it's Betty tells him that he can go to the home ec classroom and make his own food, and he's like, whoa, you can make hamburgers?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it's really dumb and it's utterly ludicrous, but it's a really fun read. And volume 2 I think introduces Sabrina.
Yes, I think it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot to go at here, and it's pretty ludicrous. It's kind of off the rails in the fact that it doesn't care about reality and doesn't care about the Archie comics. So yeah, Jughead.
And you also get
it's
the
more
classic
lighthearted.
Jughead as well in the back. You always get you get some of the classic Jughead.
Too. Is that in the trade as well?
I don't know if it's in the trade because I read it in singles.
Yeah. That may or may not be in the trade. I can't remember. I've read some of it in singles and some of it in trade, which doesn't help. But it's well worth checking out. To be fair, the Archie reboot is worth checking out as well.
Good, yeah.
I think it does suffer a little bit from the fact that I know people who got into Riverdale, which was way darker than like Archie and Jughead and all the reboot series, and I thought we were going to get, because the reboot happened so close to the Riverdale series, I thought we were going to get something a little bit closer in tone, and instead we kind of got, the comics feel closer to classic Archie.
Yes.
And Riverdale feels closer to, like, I don't know, all the other teen dramas.
I was going to say, it reminds me of that Dawson's Creek. There we go.
Yes, good shout, yeah. I couldn't remember. All I could think of was the OC, and I'm like, it's not the OC that I want to reference.
No, Dawson's Creek.
But yeah, I would recommend Jughead and Archie. To be fair, there's a lot of Archie books from that time period that I think are kind of fun and ridiculous. There's also a Betty and Veronica series, and was it Reggie and Me? That's like from the point of view of Reggie's dog, and some good stuff. But Jughead would be my starting point for if you're going away and you want something ridiculous and funny. Yeah,
I would agree with that, and I do think I think Jughead was the best of that whole Archie reboot. It was all good. But I have a real soft spot for Jughead and his desire for hamburgers, and just that's basically the entire plot.
Yeah, at least for that first trade, it is heavily like hamburger based, and fair play. I respect that in a man. I was gonna originally recommend some of the horror books and was like, no, let's not go for like zombie apocalypse in Riverdale. That doesn't seem very holiday friendly.
No. Go on holiday, get eaten by a zombie.
I think they're just too straight horror for it to be like a fun holiday read.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good, but yeah, you want to stick with original reboot. Is that a word?
Original reboot. I think
original reboot. Yeah, which are, as you say, closer to the 90s, but yeah, what I like about Jughead is it's very aware of what it is, which is just like, this is the most ridiculous thing you'll read, and we're fine with that.
And I think it is the absolutely right creative team with Chip Zdarsky and Eric Henderson, and then Ryan North and Derek Charm later on, because it's just good choices for comedy and kind of cartoonish.
Yeah.
And on that note, pass it back to you for whatever's next.
Well, my last pick is very, very niche, which is it is available, I think, only on Comixology, and it's a series by Kerry Callum, and it's Halo and Sprocket, which, you know, I feel like I need to tell you more about this. So Halo is an angel who's been sent to teach Sprocket, who is a robot, about humanity, and they live in the apartment of a young woman called Katie. And they are, although there are 5 issues, each issue has a load of sort of short stories in it. And they have little life lessons, but in a very humorous way, like Katie trying to explain a glass being half full or half empty. And yeah, the angel and the robot just don't get this analogy at all. Like, you know, you're an optimist, it's half full, but it's also half empty. Well, that's a pessimist point of view. Yeah, but it can be both full and empty at the same time. So it's dealing with these really weird sort of strong concepts, but it in a very, very funny way. At one point, Halo and Sprocket sort of break into a museum, because museums are for the people, so there's not a problem with them doing that. And then there's a
solid logic.
Yeah, and then Halo's like, they've left the ears off the dinosaurs. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. But it has got some really nice little life lessons. Like I said, they are really, really easy reads, because each story's only, you know, sort of half a dozen, 10 pages long. So they're quite very easy to read. There's only 5 issues. They were originally done, I think, in 2002, 2003, but the colorized versions were released in 2015. And they're just really nice little chunks of life, and vastly amuse me. As poor Katie tries to explain these things, and Halo and Sprocket just don't get it. And Halo's meant to be teaching Sprocket about humanity, and as an angel fails miserably. So it's all good. It's all good stuff.
Does sound like good stuff. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
It's something that I don't know why, but it's on my wish list on Comixology, and I do not know at what point this has interacted with my life, but again, maybe this is something I'll pick up before the going away. There's something about the combination of angel and robot that is so weird. Yeah,
it was really bizarre. I mean, I picked it up because I thought, oh, robot, and as everyone knows, you put a robot in your comic, I'm going to read it. But then I was like, oh, angel, how's this going to work? And the answer is very funny.
I mean, that's all our criteria has really been today, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that does sound good, and that does sound very much like the kind of thing I'm going to end up reading. So I'm going to do that.
Yay!
I like robots. Robots are good. The world needs more robots.
It does, but not ones that are gonna, you know, turn against us and kill us all.
Yeah, not like
level.
Not those guys, but like the good guys.
No,
Good
like
guy
the
robots.
Good guy robots, yeah. Like they had in iRobot before it all went to pot. The film with Will
Yes.
Smith, not the Isaac Asimov story, which is entirely different.
But the name. The name is the same.
The name is the same, yeah.
Yeah, I'd not thought about that, but that is true. I do like the film.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous and over the top.
but it's got robots in it, so I'm predisposed to like it, you see?
I feel like there's something about Will Smith films that are adaptations of like classic books that kind of have to abandon like 50% of the premise. Like I Am Legend
Yep.
gives up on so much of the book.
Yep.
It's like
I was going to say,
some of it matches up, don't get me wrong. Some of it does not.
yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Men in Black is nothing like the comic book.
Only you would know.
Yeah. There you go.
Is this the second time we've talked about this in like
Yeah, we seem to segue
couple
back
of
into this.
podcasts?
Yeah, we do this.
At some
Will
point,
Smith
we're going to
is-
have to do a Men in Black.
We're going to have to do that. Yeah. Mark that on your calendars, everybody. We will possibly attempt that at some point, and I will attempt to read it first properly.
Yes. But yeah, no, I'm interested in Halo Sprocket, and
Yeah, I do
I
recommend
will
it.
inevitably check it out. My penultimate pick. How have I counted these? I'm going to make this my last pick because the one that comes after it isn't really a pick. It's just a kind of, hey, here's a thing. So
Honourable mention.
yes. So, all right. Whilst I have just said that Archie horror is too like straight on the level horror,
Yeah.
my final pick is a horror book. But it's like ridiculous, like B-movie horror. So it's all
Okay.
smooth sailing. I can say what I want. So it's from Vault. It's Elliot Rahal, and it's two different artists. It's 2 volumes. First volume is Felipe Cunha, and the second volume is John Bivens,
Hey.
I think. First volume. Oh, so the series is Cult Classics. The first volume is Return to Whisper, and the second volume is Creature Feature. They're both very like B-movie, ridiculous horror. Return to Whisper follows a group of kids in a kind of It-esque storyline. So we see them when they're like early teens or pre-teen. I don't know. They're like younger than me. And then we see them again, I think when they're in their 30s, when, you know, the curse that they have awakened as teenagers has come back to haunt them. Buried treasure is involved. Myths about, you know, what happened in the town of Whisper in the days of old are involved. It's real ridiculous, and it's a fun, ridiculous horror thing. Creature Feature is more ridiculous. It involves monsters from outer space, kind of an alien invasion of these little like newt type things, I guess, that infect people, and then your skeleton jumps out of your body. Oh, it's mwah. And about a group of kids trying to avoid this and escape and figure out how to resolve it. God, it's dumb, but it speaks to my horror sensibilities of being really, really dumb. So, them's my picks.
It's fun
It's
horror.
good stuff. It's fun. It's both volumes are pretty standalone. They both take place in the same town, which sounds like a dreadful place to live based on the takes place in the same town. So you can read them back to back as a kind of overarching, man, Whisper sucks. But as As individual stories, I think you'll have a good time. And if you want something that's wacky but horror, definitely these. And I don't know, I was good. Maybe you'll stay up all night thinking that your skeleton's going to jump out of your body. I don't know. That's on you. But
we all have our own problems with our skeletons, and if that's yours,
yeah, if that's your specific skeletal fear, then
yeah,
sorry, but if not, you'll have a good time like I did. I don't know where I'm going with this anymore.
No.
But
I've not
cool.
read it, but I feel like I should now.
I think you would like them. They are just real ludicrous, and it's what I'm all about. It's very much what I'm all about.
Yeah. And a lot of these picks reflect that.
Yeah, I think we've reflected that we're about the dumb comedy and the ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Again, everything is on Comixology. To be fair, a lot of Elliot Rihal's books are pretty standalone one-volume affairs. Which has been a case here with a lot of the creators we've talked about. It's almost like that's a thing.
Yeah, it's like this is what they aim for. Yeah.
So if you've already read Jughead or Cult Classics or Going to the Chapel, I'd definitely recommend picking up books from them, their writers. I think there's room for exploration if you've already read what we're recommending here.
Yeah.
So should we wrap up with our final bits of honourable mentions?
Yeah, go on then. So my last honourable mention is The Pride.
Okay.
Because again, because it's so positive. And it's a bit of diversity in your comics. For those of you unfamiliar with The Pride, it's basically a superhero team made up entirely of queer superheroes. So you've got gay, transgender, you've got all that reflected in your Pride. And they go about doing superhero things. So it's a classic superhero team up. But you can get it in physical form or digital form. It's available in all the forms. And again, it's just some of it is there are sort of spin-offs that are a bit more, not standalone, but season 2 is a bit more, you know what I mean? It's more of a issue by issue kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, there is an overarching story, right?
There is an overarching story, yeah.
And then you've got the Pride Adventures, which are pretty standalone, almost anthology type thing.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was looking for. But no, it's a very positive book, and it is worth supporting some diversity in your comics.
Yes, and it is all available in one book now from Dark Horse, right? The Pride Omnibus?
Yeah, yep.
One giant paperback available now wherever Dark Horse books are sold. I don't know.
Yeah.
That is a good shout. I do like The Pride a lot. We do talk about it a lot, to be fair. I think.
Yeah, that's why I did. That's why it was an honourable mention, because I thought we've talked about The Pride. We like The Pride. We would encourage you to read The Pride.
Yeah, to share. So, honourable mentions, I've got a couple to go. My bad. One is, especially as a publisher, A Wave Blue World. Me and Will ran through Maybe Someday earlier this year, which is a kind of sci-fi, optimistic sci-fi anthology. There was a prequel to that, which is another optimistic sci-fi anthology, which is All We Ever Wanted. And I seem to have fallen into this trend of reading sci-fi anthologies whenever I go on holiday. So those two seemed like good picks because I've read them both this year. But I went through a phase of picking up Vertigo anthologies that had been released as like deluxe single issues. So Time Warp, which is I guess quite a lot of time travel stories with quite a lot of good writers taking it in different directions. And then Strange Adventures, which is more spacey. So Time Warp was more time travel-y, and Strange Adventures was more general space sci-fi-ness. Both of which I read last time I went on holiday somewhere. So yeah, I've fallen into this whole like sci-fi anthology thing recently. I would also throw out, and these were picks that we've mentioned before that I thought were probably good shouts, Homesick Pilots.
Yep.
Might be a little bit violent and a little bit horror, but
there's a bit of death.
It's a good 1-volume read at the moment, and I think you'll come back wanting more. I would explain it, but there's a full podcast where we do that. So.
Yep. All you need to know is it's a really good book, and if you've not read it, read it.
Also, Haunted House, Max.
Yeah.
I also had, for a more superhero-y pick, Astro City, which we...
Oh, yeah.
I suddenly realised I don't think we talked about on Bigger Than Capes. I think it was a different podcast.
It was in the previous podcast live.
Yes. But almost takes on an anthology type form where we jump between characters, but it's all pretty light and optimistic, and it's a nice superhero read. It also doesn't fit within the bounds of being short, because there's like 20 volumes of Astro City. But hey, if you want to buy, just choose what you want, grab some, read. So yeah, that was my other one. I also had the realization when we were doing this that last few holidays I've been on, I've ended up reading like random Jeff Lemire books that I had bought and not read. So I went away a couple of years ago and read Roughneck. That's not a holiday read.
That's not a holiday read. I mean, it's a good read, but it will rip your heart out, stomp all over it, and then hold you hostage until you break down in tears.
That's the one. There have been others, but yeah, Roughneck is the one that specifically sticks with me because I was walking around everywhere carrying this big graphic novel, Roughneck. Yeah, it's pretty big for Lemire. But yeah, I think our overall list is a lot more lighthearted than Roughneck.
Yeah, definitely.
Good job. I think we've really nailed it.
Yeah, and the tone.
Yeah, I think we have. And I think we've managed to come up with some relatively recent picks as well. I was worried we were going to end up going for like wildly unavailable books, but we've done pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
We have a tendency to go into stuff that's like, you can't get it, but this is good.
Yeah, but 20 years ago, you could have easily purchased this, but now, alas.
There was a point when I was putting my list together that I was like, I could also do a definitely don't read this on holiday list, but I decided that was too.
Roughneck, that is on that list.
Great read, not to take away with you.
Yeah.
So I think that's more or less us for this week. I don't know if you've got anything else you want to add, or.
No, I was trying to roughly think of anything that hadn't already been mentioned that was quite funny. I mean, I don't know, going back to Valiant, because Valiant, I don't know when is the Savage Trade out, or will it be out? That's a light-hearted read. I wasn't too struck on the ending, I'll say that, but you know, if you want to be laughing out loud and people think you're a maniac, that's worth a shout.
It's always been my dream. It's not out yet, I don't think, but I think it probably is out soon. So yeah, good call.
A few issues of that, so.
Yeah, I started looking into books that aren't out yet and was like, I wonder when that's out, and not in the summertime, I'll tell you that much.
No.
For almost everything I looked at. I seem to come across a lot of like October releases. It's like that's not helpful.
No. We'll have to do another one, books to read over winter while you're hibernating. They'll all be out by then.
Do that. We'll check in again in like mid-October.
When these books are out.
So yeah, I think this has been a pretty good selection. I hope this helps people who are stuck for what to read. Well, if they're going away or if they're staying at home, I don't know.
You want to bring some comics joy into your life over summer.
Yeah. So I think we've done that. So we've been Angela and Zach. This has been Bigger Than Capes, and remember that comics are bigger than capes.